Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Welcome to Emergency Management Associates, coming to you from the Area Command 392 miles west of Kitty Hawk Beach, North Carolina. Welcome to our show tonight, folks. We're glad to have you here. We're going to suspend with the Pledge of Allegiance and the National Anthem tonight because we're running way behind schedule. I want to first start off tonight with what is going on around the world. The first thing I'm going to show you is the world map. And from then, or I should not say from then, from there, I want to show you what is going on in China today. There's been a major earthquake in China, a 7.0 earthquake in China today. This is a big deal. A major earthquake in southwestern China. This happened in Beijing, China today about 1:32 p.m. Eastern Time. This was a 7.0 magnitude earthquake. Let me bring up the entire earthquake sequence here. You can see the aftershocks from this quake. This was a 7.0 here. Now I believe this was probably an 8.0 earthquake. We don't have any evidence right now to suggest that it was a 7.0. However, let me find the site that I want to show you here. I'm going to let this stand right here. 7.0 earthquake. Okay, somebody was trying to get me on another call. Folks, I want to show you what's really going on here. This is the helioplot from this earthquake in China. Folks, just by itself, this shows us to be an 8.0 earthquake. This was not a 7.0. Okay? This by itself was a 8.0 earthquake. Now, this was about an hour ago. This helioplot came from about an hour ago. Let me refresh this really quick and see if it changes. It did not change. I just refreshed it, it did not change. Folks, this was at least an 8.0. Right here, we're seeing only 1 hour line here of a body wave. Actually 2. We see 2 lines of body wave here. I fully expect to have 15 to 20 lines of body wave. The body wave are the aftershocks and the ground that is still moving after the main shock waves have passed. That's what we're looking at. You can see 2 body waves, 2 hours worth of body waves here. Depending on the amount of body waves, the length of time the body waves are still in progress, will determine exactly how strong this quake was. It came out as a 7.0. Like I said, I believe it was a lot stronger than this. Now let's look at the aftershocks from this quake. Every one of these aftershocks that I've looked at today have been not more than 10 kilometers deep, 6.2 miles deep. This was an Excuse me. Sorry to sneeze in your ear. Folks, this was a very shallow earthquake. A very strong, hazardous, major earthquake. People in and around this area are having issues. Their homes may have been destroyed. We know the last time we had a major earthquake here about 2.5, 3 years ago, people lost their lives here in Xinjiang, China. That's a sad state. Over to the right, lower right here from this earthquake. This was a 5.2 earthquake here, 10 kilometers deep. Right next to it, an earthquake that just happened, also 10 kilometers deep, a 5.6. On the other side that just happened, this they have as a 4.8, 10 kilometers deep. Up to the top left, this is a 5.0, 10 kilometers deep. USGS is only showing about 10 earthquakes here. Let's count them. 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. They're showing 13 aftershocks. 13 aftershocks. There are a lot more than that. Let's go over to the EMSC map here. Give me a second, pull up the EMSC map here. Look at all the earthquakes that have happened here. 20 plus earthquakes here in China. USGS is showing 13. That tells you something right there. All those lavender earthquakes that you see here listed are large earthquakes. Large earthquakes there. Let's take a quick look at all of the large earthquakes. 5.0, 5.1, 5.8, 5.6, 5.0, 5.2, 5.5, 5.5, and the last one, a 5.2 here. Folks, this was a major earthquake. We have 2, 4, 6, 8, 9 large aftershocks. 9 large aftershocks. The rest are otherwise. A 4.9, 5.0, a 3.3, a 4.1, a 4.5, a 4.6, a 5.8, 4.9, 4.8, and another 4.5 here. There's a 4.5 there. Large earthquake. 9 large aftershocks. 2 4.9, 5.0s on top of that. I consider those to be large aftershocks as well, since the USGS and the EMSC continue to downgrade earthquakes. So 11 aftershocks that are large. The rest are, except for one, moderate quakes. Folks, this is a big deal. This is huge. The aftershocks from this earthquake are spread out all over that province of China, literally. It remains to be seen how far strong this earthquake is going to be. We're still having earthquakes happen, aftershocks, strong aftershocks from this quake. Just these two here, this 5.6 within the last hour, this 4.8 here within the last hour. This tells you that the seismic energy has not stopped. Sometime tonight, and I will look about midnight and see how long these body waves have gone at that point in time. I will report on how strong this earthquake is in the morning. Like I said, this may be as large as an 8.0 earthquake. A big deal here in China today. We have other earthquakes here to explore as well. Notice they're not showing anything in Europe. That's a fallacy. They're showing nothing in Africa. They're showing 4 earthquakes here in South America. The furthest one up north here is a 4.8. A moderate 4.8 near Piedecuesta, Colombia. 149 kilometers deep. Going down into northern Chile. A 5.0 earthquake here in Tirana, Chile. Also, this is 30 kilometers deep. Just southeast of there, Pampa, Argentina. This is a moderate 4.3 earthquake. This is 263 kilometers deep. This is not a huge, deep earthquake. However, this is moderately deep. This being a 4.3 earthquake, just because of the depth of this earthquake by and of itself could perpetuate a large 5.0 earthquake here in sometime in the next 10 days. This earthquake down south in central Colombia, Coquimbo, Chile. I'm sorry, I said Colombia, I meant Chile. A 5.3 large earthquake here in Coquimbo, Chile. About 15 years ago, they had an 8.0 earthquake here in Coquimbo, Chile. The people of this region are suspicious of seismic activity because they have had so many large earthquakes, so many deep destructive earthquakes. That 8.0 was over 400 kilometers deep. This is just a 5.3. This time 10 kilometers deep here in Coquimbo, Chile. I want to go over here to Central America. I'm going to start over here in Guatemala. This is a moderate 4.0 in Guatemala, Livingston, Guatemala. This also is 10 kilometers deep. South of there, on the Cocos Plate, this is a tectonic plate earthquake, as is that earthquake over in Livingston, Guatemala. This is a 4.5 large earthquake here. This is 33 kilometers deep. We go north off the shores of southern Mexico next. This is a 4.2 earthquake here. 10 kilometers deep here. They're not showing any other earthquakes here in Mexico. That also is a huge lie. A huge lie. There are other earthquakes there. Let me show you briefly what we see going on. Guatemala, a 4.8 earthquake there. Okay? Offshore Guatemala. Another 4.6 here as well. Right there. They're showing one earthquake off of Guatemala. There's two. There's two. Then they're showing that other offshore quake being a 4.2 off of Oaxaca, Mexico. However, there's one other here. This is a 4.1. This is a 4.1 here. Okay? Guerrero, Mexico. Guerrero, Mexico. El Salvador. They did not show anything in El Salvador. This is a 3.4 earthquake there. There are many other earthquakes in South America. They did not bother even talking about. Why? Because they're too scared to talk about what is really going on. Now, we've had a bunch of earthquakes in Texas. A bunch of earthquakes in Texas. Let's talk about those really quickly. Okay? This one here in Toya, Texas. Southwestern Texas. It's not the only earthquake that occurred here. This is a 2.7 minor earthquake here. 2.7 kilometers deep. Folks, let's zoom in on this. I want to show you this. This is an oil and gas earthquake, meaning that men have dug into the earth, drilled into the earth to obtain oil and gas. Look how close the oil and gas pipelines are to this earthquake. If the oil and gas pumps and jacks are within 10 miles away from an earthquake, it is an oil and gas quake, as this is in Toya, Texas, a 2.7 magnitude earthquake. Now they're talking about other earthquakes here as well. Let's show you this one. This one is in Ackerley, Texas. This is a small 3.0 in Ackerley, Texas. 5.2 kilometers deep. Let's go close in here and show you what happened here today. Already we see oil and gas plots here. Oil and gas plots all over. This is definitely an oil and gas earthquake. South, north, east, and west, there are oil and gas pumps and jacks going here. Look at that. 7 different plots right here. Possibly even an 8th to the north right there. Oil and gas pipelines are, to a tremendous amount, responsible for a lot of earthquakes. A lot of earthquakes. This is the second one since November last year here in Ackerley, Texas. Further north, Velma, Oklahoma. This is a 2.5 in Velma, Oklahoma. We've had many earthquakes here. This is also an oil and gas quake right here. Just briefly right here, you can see a plot here where they're pumping oil and gas out of. This is probably no more than 4 miles away from this oil and gas pump and jack here. A 2.5 earthquake here in Oklahoma. Oil and gas earthquakes can be very dangerous. In Oklahoma last week, near Edmonds, Oklahoma, there was a 4.5 earthquake. They're going to be ongoing earthquakes. Also, they did not show you this. Let me show you another earthquake in Rotan, Texas. This was another 2.5 earthquake in Rotan, Texas. Actually 2.6, and it was not the only earthquake to hit there. It also had a 2.2 there in Rotan, Texas. A 2.2 earthquake. Let's zoom in here and find out exactly what was going on here. Look at this, guys. Oil and gas pumps and jacks all over this area. Oil and gas pipelines all over this area. Again, 2 more earthquakes in Rotan, Texas, as a result of the pumps and jacks that punctured the earth in Rotan, Texas. It's a big deal. It should be construed as a big deal. Nobody can tell when an earthquake is going to hit. We come to find out, excuse me, we come to find out that we can pull information about earthquakes prior to them happening, depending on the earthquake, where it hits, how strong it is, and how deep it is, and the other earthquakes prior to that. If there's a history of earthquakes proceeding in a specific direction, and there's an increase in seismic activity in that same direction, we can get a good idea of where the next earthquake is, where it's going to happen. We can put out a warning to those people, just as we did 2 weeks ago in Southern California. And I still hold to that seismic watch in Southern California. There should be an earthquake watch in Southern California. I'm going to zoom in here to the west coast of North America. They're not showing one single earthquake here along the west coast. How can that be? There is no way in God's green earth that this is even a possibility of no earthquakes. They are absolutely lying to us. USGS right now, let me show you this. I want to show you this. USGS right now says there's 55 earthquakes worldwide. 55 earthquakes worldwide. What a crock of crap that is. Folks, just in China alone, there are over 20 earthquakes there. Most of those as a result of a major earthquake that hit there. There's no way that just half of those worldwide earthquakes could have happened just in China. There's no way. There's over 800 earthquakes worldwide. And they want to tell us that nothing is going on here? It's incredible what they would try to say. They're trying to tell us that there are no earthquakes happening. Now they have one earthquake here in the Pacific Northwest. This earthquake is near Neah Bay, Washington. It's in the Puget Sound area. Let's zoom in on this earthquake here as well. This is near the mouth of the Strait of Juan de Fuca. Folks, this is a 2.6 earthquake. It's also quite telling how deep this earthquake is. This is 1/4 of a mile deep. 1/4 of a mile deep, just off the coast of Washington. Folks, this is in the Cascadia area. Because they believe this was 1/4 of a mile deep, we have to take a look at it. It's in the Cascadia subduction zone. We know for a fact what is going on here. There is seismic buildup. Earthquakes are locked and loaded in this area. It's going to pop. This whole area is going to pop. And they're only telling us about one minor earthquake here. The managers of USGS and every one of the politicians in Washington, Oregon, and California need to have their heads examined. Yeah, they need to have their heads examined. If they really want us to believe that, prove it. Prove to us that there's no earthquakes there. In just a few minutes, I'm going to prove that there are earthquakes there. I've got the seismograms to prove it. I have the seismograms to prove it. There is no way in heck that they can think they can even get away with this farce. And that's what it is a farce. Before I go any further, I want to talk about Grindavik, Iceland. Right before Christmas, authorities in Iceland allowed the residents of Grindavik, Iceland to return to their homes 2 days before Christmas, December 23rd. 2 weeks later, they ended up evacuating Grindavik, Iceland again. Hours later, a volcano popped up again, just outside Grindavik. We reported on it. 2 different fissures erupted. One fissure about 1.5 miles north of Grindavik. One right close to Grindavik, not more than 2 or 3 football fields away from northern Grindavik. Lava spilled out of both of those fissures. Authorities had started building an earthen wall around Grindavik. That earthen wall prevented some of the lava from getting any closer to Grindavik than it did. The second fissure opened up not more than 2 or 3 football fields away from northern Grindavik. The lava poured out of that fissure and it entered northern Grindavik and burned down 3 homes. Now they have located, via underground penetrating radar, more fissures underneath Grindavik than they even want to count. Fissures that could open up any day in Grindavik and open up and tear down houses, businesses all over Grindavik. Subsidence is happening. Some of the lava that was underneath Grindavik just 2 weeks ago has left that area and moved north. The magma chambers underneath Grindavik are now empty, and the ground is falling. The surface of the earth there is falling, and fissures are opening up. There have been earthquakes here. A lot of earthquakes. I have pictured here where the Blue Lagoon is, north of Greenvik. Folks, the Blue Lagoon has wanted to open up because it was losing millions of dollars by staying closed. Officials have opened up the Blue Lagoon again. Right next to and just south of the Blue Lagoon was a Svartsenga power plant. The Svartsenga power plant has remained open, continuing to provide power to the residents of Iceland and pumping hot water to all over the island of Iceland. Authorities today at 8 o'clock met and assessed Greenvik. They have now decided not to reopen Greenvik ever. The scientists and the authorities have met. Like I said, they have mapped underground fissures that could open up at any time. Considering what volcanoes have opened up during the last 200 to 300 years, they decided that Greenvik no longer can be trusted to house citizens there any longer. Yesterday early morning, an electrical worker from the Icelandic Power Company pulled into the driveway of a residence there in Greenvik. Just after he pulled up, a large sinkhole developed underneath his Ford Powerline van. He opened his door. The driver opened his door, and he looked down. If he had stepped right down out of his van, he would have fallen deep into a crevasse that had opened up under his van. He yelled at his partner to stay in the vehicle. Then his partner figured out a way to get out, which he did. He looked around the entire area where the van was, in that driveway. He got his partner to drive that van out of the driveway without falling into the crevasse. But like I said today, authorities have met and decided not to reopen Greenvik at all. The catastrophic insurance that residents had paid for when they bought homes in Greenvik and all over Iceland, the residents of Greenvik are going to be able to take advantage of that insurance. The state of Iceland, the country of Iceland, and the insurance company is going to help pay for residents of Greenvik to relocate without residents incurring any more hardship. Again, the residents of Greenvik are coming into some money to help relocate them outside of Greenvik. And any of the people that worked in Greenvik, either at the harbor or other places, will also be relocated, so as not to incur any more fatalities or injuries to residents of Greenvik from the earthquakes and or the volcanic eruptions that may happen into the future. Again, Greenvik is now closed permanently. They have pulled everyone out of there. If they put anybody into Greenvik, they will have a reason and a way to pull them out without getting anyone more injured than they already have been. Greenvik is permanently closed for now. As we get more information about that, we'll pass it on to you. What am I going to do now? Where am I going to go? Where are we going to go? We're going to go into the Pacific Northwest. For the USGS and other agencies to say that there's nothing going on is a bald-faced lie. Right now we're looking over at the volcano in northern Washington, just south of the Canadian border. This is Mount Baker volcano. It's one of the largest volcanoes in Washington. We're looking at the main seismogram for Mount Baker. We see an earthquake here. Let's explore what has happened just by looking at this seismogram. This is from today. The top of this seismogram started at 5 p.m. yesterday. And you can see where it counts down from 5 to 6 to 7 all the way down to midnight last night. Then, after midnight, prior to midnight, we just see some tiny tremors. After that, after about 4 a.m., the tiny tremors continue. But just after 7 a.m. this morning, that's when more and more tremors happened. Then, after 10:15 this morning, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 10:06 a.m. this morning, they had a 2.8, 2.9 earthquake here at Mount Baker. You can see it here on the red line. A 2.8, 2.9 earthquake, minor earthquake. Did they report this on the USGS map? Hell no. Heaven forbid. They didn't even report these tremors. If they had any gall, they would have at least reported the tremors. They did not report that minor earthquake there. There's no evidence of it. Let's take a look at what else we have here to show you what is going on at Mount Baker. I want to show you Baker Shuckson. Shuckson is a ski resort at Mount Baker. What I'm showing you here is a seismogram showing the VLF waves caused as a result of magma coming into this volcano. Each and every wavy line here is representative of magma coming into the volcano every 15 minutes. Each horizontal line is 15 minutes worth of activity. Yes, we can see minor indications of lava coming into this volcano. Look at these wavy lines that started just before 11 a.m. today. What is that? Those heavy-duty wavy lines that you see happening right before 11 a.m. this morning, Pacific time, this is the Chinese earthquake. This is a 7.0 earthquake recorded in Washington State. The 7.0 earthquake recorded in Washington State. Isn't that interesting? I want to ask a question. Why was that not on the previous earthquake? Let's go back to it. This is that earthquake, or this is the seismogram. This is Mount Adams. Mount Adams is another good example, though. There is no representation of the earthquake in China on the Mount Adams seismogram. Nothing at all. Mount Adams is west. Mount Adams is east of Mount St. Helens. It's not showing any evidence of the earthquake over there in China. This seismogram here is the main seismogram again at Mount Baker. It does not show anything happening before or after 11 a.m. this morning. They scrubbed the evidence of the Chinese earthquake from this seismogram. Totally scrubbed it clean. It appears on the Schutzen seismogram, but not on the others. Here's another one. This is the Upper Baker Dam. The Upper Baker Dam in Washington State. Look at this. This is typically what we saw 3.5 years ago at Mount Baker. This is the same kind of activity we saw at Mount Baker 3 years ago. We're seeing here at the Upper Baker Dam. They are gradually showing us actual activity that's happening at these volcanoes. And as a result, we can see exactly what they are not showing us. We can see exactly what is going on here. We're seeing earthquakes here at Mount Baker that they are not telling us about. We can see seismic activity that's happening that they are not telling us about. Why not? Why are they lying to so many people? Mount Baker is a very much alive volcano. Each of the volcanoes that we will talk about tonight is very much alive. This is a reason that everybody needs to be prepared. Rob52 is here in the chat just a few minutes ago saying, hello, Brother Ron, good to see you. Yes, it's good to see you too, Rob. Rob had shoulder surgery Friday morning, and he's doing great. I talked to him earlier today. He's hardly had any pain at all after having rotator cuff surgery. Amazing. Anyway, folks, this is what's going on that they are not telling us about. Mount Baker Schutzen is a ski resort. Hundreds of people a day are skiing on Mount Baker, and they have no clue what's going on. They may feel some shaking, but they might think, oh, it's my skis bouncing off the ground at Mount Baker. Oh yeah, it surely is. It surely is. Mount Baker is active. It is very, very active. Let's drop down now to Mount Rainier. I attempted to pull the seismogram here at Glacier Peak. Image not found. It's been months now since we've seen any seismic activity at Glacier Peak. They turned off the seismograph at Glacier Peak. We have no evidence of anything going on at Glacier Peak. Let's drop down now to Mount Rainier. We're going south, volcano by volcano. Mount Rainier is a very deadly volcano. Let's go over here to Emerald Ridge. The main seismogram at Emerald Ridge has been taken down. However, the machine has not been totally shut off. As you can see, this came from Emerald Ridge. RER is Emerald Ridge at Mount Rainier. I'm going to enlarge this so you can see what is happening at Mount Rainier. This is the HHN seismogram. Okay? This seismogram is showing VLF wave activity caused by magma at Mount Rainier. Each line here represents 15 minutes of time. The more wavy the lines, the more dangerous the magma. The more dangerous the magma, the more magma coming into the volcano. Okay? For most of the afternoon and evening last night, there was magma coming into the volcano, but it did not increase until almost midnight. Then after midnight, it really increased. You can see an increase in activity of the magma coming into the volcano. Then, like I said, just before 11 o'clock, even as early as 9:30, we have evidence of the earthquake in China. We have evidence of the earthquake in China. You can see the shaking going on. The Chinese earthquake rang everybody's bell all over the world. The Chinese earthquake was recorded by seismographs around the world. And tomorrow I will show you helioplots from various places around the world, showing you how strong that earthquake in China really was. Like I said, I do not believe it was a 7.0 earthquake. I believe it was a lot stronger than that. But this is Emerald Ridge at Mount Rainier. Let's look at a few others here at Mount Rainier. Let's go over to Camp Muir. Look at this. It basically was very, very quiet today at Camp Muir and even last night. All we see here at Camp Muir are minor tremors. Hit and miss at best. This seismograph was turned way down. There's hardly any evidence of anything going on here at Mount Rainier. Hardly anything going on until the Chinese earthquake hit. Again, the Chinese earthquake rang bells all over the world. We're recording the Chinese earthquake here, again, at Mount Rainier. This is Camp Muir. Let's look out at Camp Sherman, RCS. Seismograph RCS at Camp Sherman. Look here. We're seeing a lot more than just tremors here. Yesterday evening after 5 p.m., 5:15, on the red line here on the left, about 5:16 p.m., we see a 3.0 earthquake. It was off the chart at the top part of it, but we can see the bottom of it. This was at least a 3.0 earthquake here at Mount Rainier. We see other earthquakes and tremors here. It's very evident what happened. The smaller vertical lines with dots are tremors. We can see what's happening. At just after 9:15 this morning, let's look here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. This, folks, happened at 9:24 a.m. Pacific time. This, folks, happens when superheated magma comes into the volcano. This is called a magma churn signal. A magma churn signal. It looks like a small sideways rectangle. The magma churn signals typically are 23 to 24 lines high. Let's count how many lines this magma churn signal is. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 lines high. This seismogram, folks, is 46% of real world. The magma churn signal says it's 9 lines high. That is half, less than half, of what it should be. So this is like 46% of real world. But at least we can get an idea of how strong these earthquakes and tremors really are. Out to the right side of that magma churn signal, we have other vertical lines, don't we? These vertical lines are steam signatures. Mount Rainier is steaming. Mount Rainier has been steaming for years now. We have evidence of Mount Rainier steaming for over 4.5 years now. You also see a lot of tremors here. Tons of tremors hitting Mount Rainier every day. Earthquakes hitting Mount Rainier every day. But folks, wait. Where is the Chinese earthquake here? It's been scrubbed. The Chinese earthquake is non-existent on this seismogram. They scrubbed it. Heaven forbid they are honest with all of us, letting us know what is going on. They completely scrubbed that earthquake completely off this seismogram. Isn't that something? They don't want us to know about something, so they refuse to show it. It's very telling what is happening with our agencies. Hiding information, lying to us. Oh, that never happened. That never happened. Why did ballots all of a sudden show up at election centers all over the country after midnight? How did ballots all of a sudden show up at registrar voters' offices all over the country after midnight? The officials have rules to follow after elections. They have so many hours to make sure all of the ballots have been collected. Then after that, they have so many days to count the ballots. And yet, 4 years ago, they decided to bring more ballots in and have them counted. Isn't it interesting how the election completely changed from 10 p.m. that night until 7 a.m. the next morning? They decide to make the rules. They decide to show you what is true and what isn't. And then they say what isn't true, whether they want to believe it or not. Let's go south to Mount St. Helens. Mount St. Helens erupted in 2003. In 1980, it erupted in a big, huge way. The 2003 eruption paled in comparison to the eruption at Mount St. Helens in 1980. The volcano blew out, completely blew out the side of the volcano. Today, here at Mount St. Helens, this seismogram was recorded from 5 p.m. yesterday Pacific time by the Pacific Northwest Seismic Network. Very little information is had here at all. We see a couple tremors, one last night and one early this morning. Then, look what happens this morning here. This earthquake happened at 10:02 a.m. this morning at Mount Rainier. This was a 3.0 earthquake at Mount St. Helens. 10:02 a.m. Pacific time at Mount St. Helens. A small 3.0 earthquake. After that, this seismograph recorded the Chinese earthquake. Nothing else was said about any other earthquakes at all. A minor tremor this afternoon, and that's all. Okay? This is at East Dome, Mount St. Helens. Let's take a look at some other seismograms here at Mount St. Helens. Folks, this is the HHZ channel at East Dome. East Dome, Mount St. Helens is a 5-channel seismogram. Okay? Or 5-channel seismograph. The seismograph is the machine, the seismogram is the paper that the data is recorded on. Okay? Again, all we see here are tremors here last night and this morning. But again, this same machine recorded a 3.0 earthquake this morning at Mount St. Helens, and it also recorded the Chinese earthquake. Isn't it interesting how this has happened? They let us see what happened here. Let's show you another seismogram from Mount St. Helens. This is Studebaker Ridge on the north side of Mount St. Helens. Look what we're seeing here. Let's pull this down so you can see it. This is the BHHN channel, meaning we're going to take a look at the magma coming into Mount St. Helens here. Look at the wavy lines here. All kinds of magma coming into Mount St. Helens here. The wavier the lines, the more magma coming into Mount St. Helens. Look at that. Look at this. This is also recording the earthquake today in China. You can see the lines after 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. here. The Chinese earthquake. You can also see all of the other wavy lines. The wavy lines here are a result of magma pouring into Mount St. Helens. The more wavy lines, the more magma coming into the volcano here. Interesting how this happens, huh? Oh yeah, there's more. Let me show you another seismogram from Mount St. Helens. This is Trade Dollar Lake. Trade Dollar Lake. Again, this is on the north side of Mount St. Helens. Trade Dollar Lake is a volcano in and of itself, on the same ridge as Mount St. Helens. Look what we're seeing here at Trade Dollar Lake. This is the first. We're seeing a ton of steam being released from the volcano. Each of these vertical lines are steam signatures here at Trade Dollar Lake. Yes, they're showing some horizontal lines here with magma coming into the magma chamber. They're showing some. This is not an HHN channel. This is the main channel to Trade Dollar Lake. We're seeing some horizontal lines here that are thicker than others. Okay? That's called magma pulse signals. Magma pulse signals. The thicker the lines, the more magma coming into the volcano. But these vertical lines are all steam signatures here. If we had a vertical line on this seismogram with the dot in it, it would be an earthquake. The vertical lines here are all solid vertical lines, no dots. These are steam signatures. Mount St. Helens, Trade Dollar Lake, and all the other areas are steaming. They're steaming, folks. Every one of these volcanoes that we're talking about tonight are very, very dangerous, and they're also very alive. They're very active. Very active. Now, I showed you Mount Adams just a minute ago. Let's go back here and show you another look at Mount Adams. Mount Adams is just east of Mount St. Helens. Here you're seeing a lot of steam signatures again. Very few vertical lines here are actually earthquakes. I only see a handful of them that are earthquakes. All the rest of these vertical lines are steaming. Steam coming from Mount Adams. Okay? We don't get to see much at all from Mount Adams. Mount Adams, they used to show us all kinds of activity. That stopped about 3 years ago after I started reporting on it. Naturally, they don't want to show it. Let's drop south to Mount Hood into Oregon. In this case, this seismogram is coming from the USGS, the United States Geological Survey. Mount Hood is an active volcano. Up here at the top of this seismogram indicates that they started recording information after 11 p.m. last night. At 11 p.m. last night, it shows one main line that's thicker than the others, meaning magma was coming into Mount into Mount Hood last night before midnight. Then the seismograph was turned down. After 1:15 a.m. this morning, there is literally no evidence of anything happening. Hardly anything going on because they turned the seismograph down. Very little evidence of anything happening until after 3:30 this morning. Then and only then did they turn it back up. Then we have evidence again of more magma coming into the volcano. We have one tremor after 7 a.m. this morning. About 7:14 a.m. this morning. A small tremor. Increased magma here. Increased magma as we go into this afternoon. Look at that. All kinds of magma coming into Mount Hood here. And we have some vertical lines here. Tiny vertical lines indicating tremors from the magma that is fracturing the rock as it's coming in to Mount Hood. That's what we're seeing here. All kinds of activity after 3:30 this afternoon until about 6:30 this evening. Isn't that interesting? They only want to show us what they want us to see. And then they stop. They turn off the data. Let's look at other seismograms here at Mount Hood. Let's look at Hood Meadows, for example. Okay? No, I'm sorry. Let's look at Palmer Lift. Palmer Lift is about halfway up. The seismograph is about halfway up the side of Mount Hood on the south end, the south flank of Mount Hood. Okay? According to the seismogram here, they started recording data here at 11 p.m. last night. Again, this is USGS seismogram. We see some magma coming into Mount Hood, don't we? Again, this is a separate seismogram from the other one. Okay? We see some magma coming into the volcano here. Then, after again 3 o'clock this morning, we see more. They basically shut it down for about 2.5 hours early this morning. Then, after 7:30 a.m. this morning, we see another activity here. Okay? More activity here. At about 7:40 a.m. this morning, we have a huge bunch of magma coming into the volcano. The line starts off being very thin, and it gets thicker, doesn't it? And we have some vertical lines going through it, meaning this magma coming into Mount Hood is fracturing rock inside the volcano, causing magma uplift. Magma uplift. Decryption electrons, yes, we checked out global earthquakes. I want to stop here for just a second. I would appreciate if everyone here in the chat and otherwise would please pay attention to what we're saying. We're giving you information that was not on the earthquake maps because the agencies do not want us to know this. All the volcanoes are making the agencies look stupid here because they're allowing the seismograms to come out to the public eye. As we can see, the seismic activity increased here. Mount Hood. Look at this. Palmer Lift, folks. Look at the amount of magma coming into Palmer Lift this afternoon. At 11 a.m., I shouldn't say at, after 11 a.m., about 7 or 8 minutes after 11 a.m., we have more magma coming into the magma chamber, and it caused fracturing going on to the rock. Earthquakes. Earth movement. In this case, this was probably no more than a 1.8 tremor. But you can see this magma coming into the magma chamber. By the way, what happened to the Chinese earthquake? They scrubbed that data, didn't they? They scrubbed that data. The Chinese earthquake we were supposed to see after 10 a.m. this morning. Where is it? It's nowhere to be seen here. But look at this other magma movement at Mount Hood today. It was all over the place, isn't it? Literally everywhere. Okay? Let's look at Timberline. On the lower south side of Mount Hood. Let's look at this. Look at this one. It was fairly quiet last night. Up at the top again, 11 o'clock last night. We had some magma coming into the magma chamber here at Mount Hood. Then they turned it way down. So it's hardly showing anything going on. Oh, by the way, what happened after 6:30, 6:45 this morning? We have evidence here of a lot of magma showing up at Mount Hood. And it made its way through the electronic turndown of the machine. The magma was strong enough coming into Mount Hood that it made it through the electronic turndown of the machine. So we see a lot of magma coming into Mount Hood, don't we? A lot. This machine was turned way down. Way, way down. After 9 o'clock this morning, between 9 and even noon today, where is the Chinese earthquake? They scrubbed the document. They scrubbed the Chinese earthquake from the document. Lying to us all. Yes, we are seeing evidence of magma coming into Mount Hood. Where is the Chinese earthquake? We know Mount Hood is very active. And a year and a half ago, there were so many earthquakes hitting Mount Hood that the United States Geological Survey issued an earthquake warning at Mount Hood. It calmed down. All of these volcanoes, folks, are gearing up. They're not gearing down. If you see less and less activity, it very well might be that the agency has scrubbed off the data, just like they scrubbed off the Chinese earthquake today, not letting us know what's going on. This is what they do, and they get away with it because nobody challenges them. Nobody challenges them as to what's happening. Rarely, if ever, do they let us know what's going on. Let's jump down to Newberry Volcano. Newberry Volcano is south of Mount Hood. Again, the seismograph has been turned way down. We do not have any magma churn signal to gauge how far it was turned down. But all we know here is that it is active. Each line here represents 15 minutes of time. We see magma coming into the volcano here, don't we? It calms down and then picks up again and again. Look at this. All of a sudden here at Newberry Volcano, This is Cichel, C-I-H-L. It's a cinder cone at Newberry Volcano. This seismograph is recording the Chinese earthquake here. And that earthquake lasted. The seismic energy began at just before 9 a.m. and it continued. It continued into this afternoon. You can see it here. You can see it here. So some documents, they allow us to see what's going on. Other documents, they scrub the data. Let's jump down to Sisters Volcano. Sisters Volcano. Sisters Volcano is not just one volcano, folks. It's 3 different volcanoes. 3 different volcanoes. Sisters North, Sisters Central, and Sisters South. Today, this seismogram is recording data. Magma coming into this volcanic complex, not just one volcano. Look here. Folks, I want to show you this. Back down here. Over at the top of this, okay? This seismograph started recording data at 11 p.m. last night. All throughout the day, it's recording information. Again, what happened to the Chinese earthquake? We see some tremors here, but where is the Chinese earthquake? It was completely scrubbed from the data. Completely scrubbed from the data. After 11 o'clock, or after even 10 o'clock, we see tremors happening here. And all afternoon. Then all of a sudden, what happens here this afternoon? They want us to believe that this Chinese earthquake happened this afternoon. No, it did not. They moved the Chinese event to this afternoon. Again, this is just another example of this agency getting away with murder. They do what they want, when they want. All the other seismographs showed the Chinese earthquake to have happened just after 10 a.m. Pacific time. But here they want us to believe it happened this afternoon. What a crock of crap. What a crock of crap. Folks, when the agencies start to lie and cheat, they will do whatever it takes to get their own agenda through, whether or not the event actually happened or not. They want to try to tell us what they want us to know, and nothing more. Don't believe everything you see, and half of what you hear. I'm just saying. Let's jump down to South Central Oregon. Crater Lake, Cleetwood Cove. Again, this is a USGS seismogram. Okay? Last night, they started recording data at 2300 hours, 11 p.m. Pacific time. You can see these long lines here. Each horizontal line representing 15 minutes of time. You can see the minor tremors hitting here at Crater Lake. Magma causing tremors here at Crater Lake. Look what happened here today. Where's the Chinese earthquake? It's not here. But it's recording data here of tremors happening here at Crater Lake. The top of Crater Lake is an alpine lake. The top of the volcano is an alpine lake. These tremors are happening in the volcano underneath that lake. Crater Lake is another Cascade mountain range volcano. And as you can see, it's very active. It's never been on a watch list. It's never been on a volcanic watch list because there has not been sufficient evidence of major activity. This is activity. This is not major activity. So far, we don't have evidence of any large, moderate, or even small earthquakes here. Today, we've had small earthquakes here at Crater Lake before, but it doesn't happen very often. So Crater Lake has not been on a watch list. This is tame compared to what other volcanoes, what are going on at other volcanoes here in the Cascade Mountain chain. As I've stated in previous programs, the Cascade Mountain chain of volcanoes starts up north in British Columbia. It carries down all the way to Lassen and Shasta in Northern California. I should say Shasta and Lassen. Mount Shasta is north of Mount Lassen. There is sufficient evidence to prove that both Shasta and Lassen are very active and could erupt at any time. One more seismogram at Crater Lake, and then we'll go down to Mount Shasta and Mount Lassen. Look at this activity last night here at Crater Lake. Cleetwood Cove that I just showed you is on the northeast side of Crater Lake. This is the southeast side of Crater Lake here. Look at this. There is plenty of evidence of magma coming into Crater Lake here. Plenty of evidence of magma coming into Crater Lake here at Mount Scott. Look at that. To the point that each individual line is almost being compromised over each other. More and more magma pouring into Crater Lake, and it's almost eclipsing the white background of the paper. Yes, this is digital. There's no actual paper. But if this was paper, the paper would be completely covered up by the activity at this volcano. This seismograph is probably only showing us 50% of real world. We don't have a magma churn signal here at Crater Lake to show how far the seismograph has been turned down. But I'm telling you, it's probably been turned down at least to 50% or less. If this seismograph was allowed to show us real world, we'd be in trouble. We would probably be in deep yogurt. Again, there's an alpine lake at the top of this volcano. A very deep alpine lake. When this volcano erupts, there will be very much a catastrophic earthquake, very much a catastrophic eruption. Because when this hot magma from the volcano below meets with the cold lava, either the cold water at the top of this volcano, there will be an explosion that cannot even be thought about. The cold water heating that hot lava will explode. And you can see the information here. Folks, from the time that this seismograph was recording information at 11 p.m. last night until 7 a.m., there was a lot of magma coming into this volcano. Over 7 hours worth of information here. Then it either calmed down or they turned it down. Because the rest of the day, very little of, if anything, ever happened. All we can prove here is that there's tremors. Tremors happening as the magma has fractured rock inside the volcano. Just tremors. Before that, there were actual earthquakes. It's been quiet ever since, all day long. Again, where is the Chinese earthquake? Where is the Chinese earthquake? It should have happened in the center of your screen right here. It's not there. They scrubbed the document. They scrubbed the document clean. Heaven forbid we know the truth. Let's show you Mount Shasta. Good old Mount Shasta. Oh, you're kidding me. You have got to be kidding me. Just a second here, folks. I know I pulled the information before I came on this air. I know I pulled it. Son of a gun. Okay. All I can tell you is this. There was information at Mount Shasta. There is magma coming into Mount Shasta. That I can guarantee you. They have made sure that I don't show it to you. Okay? Let's go further south to Mount Lassen. Look at this, guys. There are earthquakes that happened today at Mount Lassen. Okay? They started recording data yesterday afternoon here at Mount Lassen at 15:30 hours over on the top right. 15:30 is 3:30 yesterday afternoon. 4 o'clock, 1600 hours on the top left. We had earthquakes here. 2.8, 2.9 earthquakes. Maybe even as much as a 3.0 earthquake yesterday afternoon. Then as the evening drew longer, we had more and more magma coming into the volcanic chamber at Mount Lassen. But all we got here are tremors here. The magma coming into Mount Lassen generated tremors, fracturing the rock here as it came into this volcano under pressure. Okay? Then it calmed down some. And all we saw here throughout last night into today are tremors. Until almost 9:15 this morning. Even before that, At 8:40 this morning, we had a 3.0 earthquake on that red line. The red lines are generated by the computer, telling the seismologist, hey, getting the seismologist's attention, saying, hey, look at this. This is important. A 3.0 earthquake happening at 8:40 a.m. this morning, and a subsequent 2.0 after that. Then, just before 9:15 this morning, over on the right-hand side, look at this, guys. This is like a 3.3, 3.5 earthquake, back to back. Back to back. 3.3, 3.5 earthquake here at Mount Lassen this morning. Then we have other 2s here, other 2.0s at 10:04 a.m. this morning. We had a 2.7, 2.8 earthquake. But where is the Chinese earthquake here? They're not showing us a Chinese earthquake. They scrubbed it. They're showing us data here at Mount Lassen, but they scrubbed the data from China. They're not letting us see the Chinese earthquake here at Mount Lassen. They scrubbed it. They've completely scrubbed the data. One more seismogram here, and then we're going to let you go. They scrubbed it. Here at Mount Lassen, look at this data. Again, true to form with the data shown last night from that other seismogram. We see a lot of magma here, don't we? Seismograph LDB. LDB is on the southern side of Mount Lassen. We see an awful lot of magma coming into Mount Lassen volcano. Mount Lassen volcano erupted about 1938, 1939. Folks, it sure looks to me, by studying the seismograms from Mount Lassen in the past 4 years, Mount Lassen is looking like it could erupt at any time. It could. It could erupt at any time. This seismogram here shows a ton of magma coming in and feeding into Mount Lassen today, last night. This seismogram started recording data after 3:30 yesterday afternoon, and it continued here until after 21:30, 9:30 p.m. last night. Then they turned off the seismograph, as they typically do at some of these volcanoes. They turn them off. Why? We've been seeing USGS turn off the seismogram down at Calipatria in California. They do it at a lot of the volcanoes so they don't have to show you what happened. Look at this, guys. They turned that seismograph off at approximately 9:34 p.m. last night. They did not turn it on again. They did not turn it on again until after 9:05 a.m. this morning. They turned it off for 12 hours. 12 hours. What happened in that 12-hour period? What happened in that 12-hour period? Also, they're just barely showing any activity from China on this seismogram. Just barely. USGS, where is the factual data? Where is the factual data at every one of these volcanoes? There are 10 to 11 seismographs all around each one of these volcanoes. 90% of the data is shut off. The seismographs are shut off. I poured over data all day long. The seismographs are shut off. They're not available. Ridiculous. They're digital. LN is here in the chat saying it is ridiculous that they turn it off. They're digital. So they cannot even use the excuse they're saving ink and paper. Not at all. They're turning it off. They're just barely evidence of a Chinese earthquake here. And they don't even show all of the data. They turn them off. They turn them off. By the way, NanoGap is here in the chat. He just said turning the device off does not stop the flow of magma and seismic activity. You're right. And by the way, NanoGap, last Friday, we checked our mailbox. NanoGap sent us a really nice thank you card, and he sent us a donation, which we greatly appreciate. Thanks, NanoGap. You're awesome. We appreciate that. Green Thumb says the system is our enemy, Don. The system is our enemy. You're exactly right. You're exactly right. For them not to show information here is a felony. It's a felony. The USGS is a federal organization. I was a federal police officer, 24 years on the department. If I had filed a false police report, I would be in jail still. If I had filed a false police report, I would be still in jail. Look what they're doing. They're filing false data. False data. Falsifying documents. Federal documents. Somebody needs to have their hands slapped. Or worse. Or worse. What say you? I've shown you the information here. This is appalling. I show this data to you every day in, day out over the past 4.5+ years. Incredible. Incredible. Folks, tomorrow I'm going to show you Southern California. I want to show you what's going on because the agency is not showing a damn thing. The agency is not showing us a damn thing. Nothing. They want us to believe that nothing is going on. They are a liar. And I stand as a witness to that. I show this data every day. I've shown it all the time, day in, day out. Unreal, guys. Unreal. Folks, before I get into my devotional tonight, I want to please ask for prayers for members of our EMA family and others. We have a lot of people that are suffering right now. Hurricane Heather will not be back for a while. She has to get over some things that she's having to deal with. My buddy Don Patoka is not doing that well. He's here, and we appreciate him. His wife is on hospice. They both need our prayers. Our buddy Rob just got out of surgery. He's going to have to go through physical therapy, and many other people as well. Please, folks, don't forget our own EMA family in your thoughts and prayers. They need each of us. Don Patoka just put up a thought here in the chat. Andrew Golden just gave us a $20 super chat too. He said, "Did you see that video on frost quakes?" Yes, I did. I sent it on Telegram. What do you think? Yes, there are frost quakes. When the ground freezes, yes, I'll get back to my buddy Don and what Rob just posted here. Folks, when the ground freezes as it does, freezing causes the ground to freeze together, doesn't it? Some parts of the ground cannot freeze as rapidly as other parts, and the ground breaks. It's called freeze quakes. The ground fractures. You can even hear it sometimes. You can even hear it when the ground fractures from the frost. Up in the far north in Sweden and Norway and Denmark and Alaska, we've seen this happen many, many times during the coldest parts of the year. Frost quakes are a reality. They really are. And I appreciate you guys talking about it. I appreciate that, Andrew. Thank you for bringing that to everybody's attention tonight. And thank you for that $20 super chat. Now, I want to report what Don Patoka put here in the chat. He says, being prepared is much more than just having a supply of stuff. Be in tune through prayer with Heavenly Father. Listen to the still small voice of guidance, as each of us are unique in circumstance. Pray for yourselves, your families, and each other. We are family. Rob52 put up our email address and has been putting up our post office box and also putting up where you can send donations to our program here to keep us on the air. We appreciate that very much. Don also says prior prayer, proactive proper preparation prevents poor performance. And that's absolutely right. Absolutely right. Your immediate safety and well-being is incumbent upon yourself and in your hands. Few can or will be coming to spare you. Only you alone stand accountable for your own safety and your family's safety and well-being. True story. True story. Don just put something else up that I think is very important. God only asks that we do what, when, where, and what we can. But we need to make the commitment to do our best, so He will include us in all of the rest. Absolutely true. Let me share a scripture with you tonight. This is a prophet of God in the scriptures telling us, quote, "O remember, my son, and learn wisdom in thy youth. Yea, learn in thy youth to keep the commandments of God. Yea, and cry unto God for all thy support. Yea, let all thy doings be unto the Lord, and whithersoever thou goest, let it be in the Lord. Yea, let all thy thoughts be directed unto the Lord. Yea, let the affections of thy heart be placed upon the Lord forever. Then the last verse here is very, very important. Counsel with the Lord in all thy doings, and he will direct thee for good. Yea, when thou liest down at night, lie down unto the Lord, that he may watch over you in your sleep. And when thou risest in the morning, let thy heart be full of thanks unto God. And if ye do these things, ye shall be lifted up at the last day. Ye shall be lifted up at the last day. Brothers and sisters, remember prayer. Prayer will lift us up. Prayer will help us. Prayer will bless our lives, brothers and sisters. I have seen that. I have seen that. I want to thank every one of you who support this program, whether it be in Super Chat, or whether it be in cards and letters, or whether you send your donations via our PayPal and Venmo that Rob just got through putting up here in the chat. I want to thank Rob for doing that. Thank you so much, Rob. You all are my friends. You are all my brothers and sisters. May God bless you. May God keep you even in the palms of his hands. I know he has, because I've seen that happen. He has blessed all of our lives. Keep each other in prayer. Let God know that you love him and that you love your fellow man, your brothers and sisters in Christ. Let God be able to bless us and keep us at all times. I love you all, brothers and sisters. I love you very much. I appreciate the chance you all give me to be here on the air, giving you information that you can use. Like I said, I've already covered now the upper level of the West Coast of the United States. I've told you what is happening in Iceland. Iceland is being ripped apart by the Atlantic fault. The Atlantic fault is separating in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. The Atlantic fault is tearing Iceland apart. That is one reason the fissures are ripping open in Grindavik and all over the country. Imagine what the Atlantic fault is doing out in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, ripping large sections of ocean apart. Can you imagine the calamity that's going to happen? Yeah, think about that. Let's pray for each other. Folks, if anything else happens tonight, we will be back here on the air to tell you about it as soon as the information becomes available. Until then, may God bless us and protect us. We will be back on the air tomorrow to let you know what's going on. I will give you more information about China tomorrow morning, probably. I want you to be aware of what's happening. The Chinese earthquake was at least a 7.0, and I believe it was an 8.0 major earthquake. People were killed today in China. I know that. People were injured. People are cold today in China. God bless them. God bless them all. God bless us all tonight. We will probably be back on the air at least a short while in the morning to tell you what's going on in China and give you more information about the quake. God be with you until we meet again. God bless you, brothers and sisters. I love you all very much. Have a good night and a better tomorrow. We will see you tomorrow morning. Good night, everybody. Much love. God be with you till we meet again. See you soon, brothers and sisters. See you soon.